does look like an open space coming through right here.
This is the old railway trail right here. And you really have to be looking for it if you want to find it.
It's right around here somewhere, for sure. Look at this, it's gorgeous, look at this. We can do, yeah, we sit here all day. I'm getting better and better.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Hi, I'm Connell.
And I'm Scott with the E-Bike Chef.
In this episode, we're following the route of the old St. Martin's Railway, which started here in Hampton and ran all the way to the Bay of Fundy.
And it closed like 85 years ago, so it's not going to be easy. But it's going to be fun and delicious.
No kidding. This really should be fun. But there's going to be a lot of trial and error. The plain truth is that many parts of the old railway are now so grown over with trees and shrubs, it's almost impossible to tell from the woods around it. But whether we're on foot or on a bike, this trip will take us on a journey through history. For a 60-year period beginning in the final decades of the 1800s, this unlikely railway carried thousands of trainloads of freight and passengers through New Brunswick's Caledonia Highlands and along the Hampton River Valley. We spread this adventure over the best part of a year, hitting different sections over all 4 seasons. We start our 47-kilometer journey at the historic Hampton train station. Fortunately, here in town, it's easy to find signs of the old railway, and it only takes a few hundred meters before the St. Martin's in Upham begins to reveal her secrets. In a parking lot behind Hampton Mall, there's a portal in the trees. It leads us to a hidden pathway, level and smooth. There is little doubt it's the old railbed.
Look at the rise to it on both sides. It's the perfect. It can't be anything else but a railway. Straight as an arrow.
This magical passageway eventually carries us into a quiet residential neighborhood. Years ago, the town paved over the old railbed here, creating Mott Street. Homes and families soon followed. The trains rolled back and forth literally just under the asphalt of this neighborhood avenue. Beyond here, the faintest traces of the rail line can be seen from a height. The route crosses Hampton Road and enters the golf course. There it is.
And now I can and say I've been here.
In 1875, a small army of men and horses took up the work. They dug into the sides of steep slopes, built raised causeways across swamps, constructed and maintained 14 bridges and countless hand-built stone and concrete culverts to prevent their new steel road from being washed away in the spring thaw. Now, this might be a good time to tell you the St. Martin's in Upham was a railroad that should never have been built. There was no financial case for its construction. What's more, there were signs the company behind it was in over its head. It struggled to pay its bills and repeatedly violated its contracts with the province.
The terrain between Hampton and St. Martin's is mountainous, and government regulators had serious concerns about whether this little company could pull it off. Well, construction had barely started before the outfit began to cut corners, literally, to the frustration of government engineer Henry Purley. It was Purley's job to keep an eye on the project and report back to his bosses in Fredericton, who were subsidizing the work to the tune of almost 90%. His reports, preserved today in the provincial archives, show he didn't like what he was seeing. The radius of a railway curve at that time was supposed to be no less than 1,000 feet. Well, this company decided soon after it started work that 700 feet or so was good enough. Likewise, railway grades were supposed to climb at no more than 60 feet per mile. Now, this railway had barely left Hampton Station before it was climbing at 90 feet per mile.
Even so, it did get built, and despite many shortcomings, it was used by people and resource industries throughout this area for the next 60 years. What remains of it today is largely hidden, a 47-kilometer all but invisible corridor with hundreds of mysterious earthworks and stone and concrete architectural features waiting to be discovered. But before setting out on our next leg, I think I can just make out what sounds like food preparation in the e-bike chef kitchen. What are you trying to get into, buddy? Crispy onions. I
like giving it an extra little, right, like that. Then we take the wrap, little mayonnaise to base it out with. Put your chicken in there. Some cheese, your favorite cheese, any particular cheese. Salt and pepper to taste. Lime juice on top of that. It's almost mandatory to have this. And crispy onions. And the special ingredient, if you don't have crispy onions, a good thick chip, that has lots of flavor in it. They're a real secret ingredient. They give you a crunch like you won't believe, right? And it's just a texture thing. The texture is everything, right? So put a few chips in there. And then your peach mango salsa. Your sriracha sauce. Scott here. If you want to take this wrap to the next level, bring the pan, a little bit of oil, warms the food up, it melts the cheese inside, enhances all the flavors and textures. It's truly the way to do this sandwich.
Back on the bikes, proof of one of those sharp curves that kept Henry Purley awake at night can be found immediately across the 4-lane highway above Hampton proper. We had the good fortune to be joined here by our friend George Hector, who brought along his drone. The railbed is clearly visible from the highway. It runs first to the west, then south, and finally to the east, the first half of a tight S-turn carrying travelers steadily down to the bank of the Hammond River. It's on this section you see the first signs of railway architecture, hand-built stone-cut culverts still doing the job protecting this railbed from runoff and flash floods a century and a half after these stones were wrestled into place. Much of the railbed is now private land. At Smithtown, the railway's first station stop, one homeowner uses the straight and level railbed for a driveway. In other places, homes have been built right on top of the track bed, all off limits to us. But there's plenty left to see. A little further to the east at Robertson Road, another section of the track bed is so grown over it's nearly impossible to follow in places. But, like ancient ruins discovered in the jungle, a patient hiker will find several more stone culverts here, ranging from tiny to substantial, in various conditions of repair. The near-complete return of nature makes it too difficult, even impossible, for bikes to follow on this section of the Hammond River Valley. But a little further up, as we approach Titusville, it gets easier, for walking at least. Here, the railway's route hugs the bank of the river. The route along this section is predictably challenging at first, but eventually gives way to a welcoming avenue through the woods, crossing steep gullies and unveiling still more culverts, including this one about 70 feet long and made of concrete. 1927. It's an early 20th century replacement for the original stone culvert that had, in all likelihood, given way. We're here to find the bridge that once carried trains across Salt Springs Brook.
This stretch here, perfect. Raised, flat, no washouts, hardly a tree across it.
Finally, after 90 minutes of walking, we come upon a ghostly monolith standing in the woods. The creek and other evidence of a substantial railway bridge soon come into focus. The spot is not easy to get to and is largely undisturbed. The ground here is littered with coal cinders and steel railway artifacts, like this giant square nut weighing more than a kilogram. Going on, the railbed continues to follow the Hammond. Although much of the track bed is unrecognizable, some short sections remain open. This photograph shows the St. Martin's in Upham locomotive number 2 on a bridge at Titus Mills. Ahead of us lies Upham. In the 1800s, Upham was one of the most significant communities in the Hammond River Valley. It was an important forestry center, a hub for surrounding camps, sawmills, farms, and other businesses. In the 1870s, it was community leaders here who pushed hardest for the railway. And once built, they used it to transport lumber, plaster laths, shingles, and passengers, as shown by this group of men in Sunday best waiting for the train at
Upham Station. Provincial records show the railway placed one of its 3 turntables for locomotives at Upham, although the location of that turntable is unknown today. What's more, one of the railway's most significant bridges was situated here. Could anything remain of it? Well, yes, in fact, there are substantial abutments and concrete piers still on site.
Same as what we do today, they twist them and tie them, thin pieces of metal. I mean, we found this, we had to find an Anglican church, then we walked behind a graveyard, and then we came down a big stiff hill, which you don't even know if we're going to be able to get back up, and we found this abutment.
That's where we need to get to, and that is on the other side of the Hampton River. Our trek in to the rail line south of the Hampton begins on the scenic Back River Road. Soon the way turns into an all-terrain vehicle track and then to no track at all.
Didn't even spill the beer.
A complete washout requires some heavy lifting with the 70-pound bikes. On the other side, we find what appears to be an abandoned hunting lodge, close to collapse.
One day they just came home and said, "Honey, I just heard a noise." Right?
And the building collapsed.
And the building fell down, and they never came back again. They were mattress collectors.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on, we pick up the rail bed once again. We turn north, back toward Upham and the remains of the bridge. The way becomes completely grown over and impossible to navigate on wheels. We again leave the bikes behind and push on toward the river's left bank.
The abutment.
But eventually, we find it.
Here we made it.
The abutment and pier on this side of the Hampton are much better preserved.
Wow. There it is.
This isn't concrete.
No, that isn't. This one here is all stone. Look at this. It's still as straight as the day they built it. Look at that.
And this is October.
Our return trip to the van is every bit as difficult as the way in, with some added anxiety in the disappearing fall light.
And we got some tough slogging just to get back to the bicycles. And then we've got one very long
Bike ride out of here.
bike ride out.
And a
And
big friggin' mountain to climb.
there.
between Upham and St. Martin's, and on Porter Road.
Swampy. Cut up.
In the next episode in the Lost Railway series, we plunge into the Caledonia Highlands, by far the most rugged part of the route, for an exhausting multi-day search for the fabled Gully Bridge, 8 stories high and well off the beaten track.
You're not throwing me off. I'm going to find this Gully Bridge, whether it's friggin', you know what I mean? Like, if I don't find it today, I'll have to reassess.
So, defeated once more in our efforts to find the Gully Bridge, back here on the road that runs up from Henry Lake. Rough.
All that and more in part 2 of our journey along the Lost Railway.
Beautiful countryside.